Hello and welcome to Talking TSM, the Game House's talk show about TSM's LCS team. I am Robert Haynes, your host and your guide into the world of TSM. Sorry it didn't come out yesterday. April Fools. Not really. I just had a lot going on the last couple days, and I figured to really give this show the time that it deserves, I needed to do it on Friday morning instead of Thursday morning. So I'm here recording, and I'm excited. We have what could be a very interesting series coming up against 100 Thieves after they... How would I put this? They looked very comfortable against Dignitas. Now, there was a draft diff. There were definitely some drafting decisions that could have been made differently had, I don't know, just had they done some things differently, to say the least, because I think Dignitas might have dug themselves a hole. Let's just say that. Anyways, now 100 Thieves get to play TSM get to play 100 Thieves. And the winner of this game will move on to finish top 3. So if this was the summer, as a reminder, this series would be really big because it would determine who is going to Worlds. Think about that for a minute. Now, the final 4 teams that we expected are here. C9, TL, TSM, and 100 Thieves. Those were our top 4 teams, or at least my top 4 teams. And I think most people's top 4 teams, to be honest. So, sure, Dignitas was interesting. The desk was for some reason picking Evil Geniuses over TSM. I know the series was closer than we probably would have liked, but come on, guys. Really? Even TSM didn't even play that well, honestly, and they still won 3-1. We went over that last podcast, so make sure you go listen to that one from Monday. But now we're at the end here, and whoever wins gets to play TL C9, whoever loses that game. And then whoever wins that game will get into the finals against whoever won in the TLC9 game or series, which they've had 2 weeks off now to, kind of get their stuff together and figure out what they're going to do. So that'll be a really fun series to watch on Sunday. But leading us off on Saturday. No. Just kidding. TSM are playing on Sunday. Why did I think that Saturday was going to be TSM? I could have sworn that's what it was initially. Maybe they changed it. Let me see. No, they are doing Cloud9 Team Liquid. So TSM don't play till 4 on Sunday. Interesting. That is interesting for me. I normally get together with my family. We've been COVID safe all year. We've just been kind of only seeing each other on Sunday. But for those who celebrate Easter, which for those who celebrate, happy Good Friday. But yeah, for those who celebrate Easter, you're going to be in for a treat, potentially. Anywho, let's just jump into it. TSM, 100 Thieves, it's going to be an interesting one. As per usual, I'm going to go back and look at their first games. For TSM, this was when they were showing, big priority on the Kaisa. 100 Thieves banned Olaf, Azir, and Udyr. Udyr was pretty much perma-banned this early on in the season. Azir, people were already picking up on Power of Evil. This was game 6 of TSM's 6-game winning streak. And at this time, remember, 100 Thieves are 6-1 when TSM play them. Okay? 6-1. And TSM ban out DeMonte, who was the starting mid laner at this point. They ban out his TF. They ban out the Someday Renekton, and they ban out the closer Talia, because Talia was also very strong at this point. Thank God she's not meta anymore, because we do not have to deal with Spica Talia. Ugh, hopefully ever again. But yeah, so TSM, first pick, they get the Kaisa. 100 Thieves respond with the now pretty famous FBI Huhi Senatom Kench, which I wouldn't surprise me to see a similar duo come out of them this weekend. It is something they like to play. TSM responded with the Rel and the Hecarim, and this ended up being probably one of TSM's best games of the season. I mean, they were dominant in this one. It just didn't feel like 100 Thieves had any life, and TSM just rolled. Some days Jace was pretty useless against Huni's Gnar. He died 5 times, did not get a single kill, only 1 assist. Power of Evil went 6-0, lost with 6-0 on the Kaisa. Spica was still relatively not a factor on the Hecarim. And Sword Art's Rel was like really good this game too. And really it was just that the Rel looked great. Power of Evil had probably his best Victor game of the season. Huni held his own, and Someday just didn't play very well at all. So this was the last game of their 6-game winning streak. They would go on to lose to Dignitas on Sunday of that week, February 21st. Man, that was a while ago, almost 2 months ago now. And this would get them to 6-2. They'd be tied at second and right behind Cloud9 at that point, who they had not played yet, to my knowledge. Let me check. No. They had not played yet during their 6-game win streak. Or no, they had. They lost to them in week 1. That's right. They had lost. So, yeah, that was the end of their 6-game win streak. They'd, go on to obviously finish 12-6, but this was probably when TSM were really starting to find themselves. Not probably, it was when they were really starting to find themselves. And then it was in game 2 that TSM would actually bring out Seraphine for the first time. It was pretty interesting to say the least. So, 100 Thieves learned. They banned the Kaisa from Lost because he had just been playing out of his mind. They got rid of Syndra just because I guess Ryoma didn't feel like facing PoE Syndra. Then they got rid of the Rel because they didn't want to see it as well. This was a weird draft because, then TSM get rid of the Udyr because, again, on red side, you pretty much just have to get rid of Udyr. Then they also got rid of the Renekton and the Senna, which is still considered to be one of FBI's best champions. 100 Thieves first picks the Azir, which might be when TSM would see that later. As a reminder, TSM are 8-5 at this point, which means that they went 2-3, and they were in the midst of just losing 2 games to Dignitas. Two of their last, I think it was 4 games to Dignitas. Let me make sure. So, yeah, they had just lost. Actually, this was a really important game because on that Sunday they lost to FlyQuest. Then they lost to Dignitas. So they were in the middle of their second 2-game losing streak, and they had lost 3 of 5, even though they beat Team Liquid and CLG during the middle of it. And 100 Thieves and them were tied at 8-5. This was a really important weekend because I remember it was Dignitas, 100 Thieves, and then Cloud9. And we were worried, man. We were like, oh god, like the team that we hoped that they would most likely beat first was Dignitas, and we were getting this new version of 100 Thieves with Ryoma because they had benched DeMonte. So TSM had clearly shown, like, at this point, like, they needed Kaisa and Azir to win games. And then they pull out the first Seraphine of Power of Evil's career, and he showed he could play it. It was built around the Olaf. They during their first round pick Olaf Seraphine, and I'm like, holy moly, what are they doing? This is awesome. Then they picked the Jace, which was honestly pretty smart. And Hooney had shown that he could play it. Second round of bans come through. Don't really know why 100 Thieves bans TF. It did not really make sense to me here. I don't think it did then. The Victor makes sense, but yeah. Then the Gragas to, make sure that TSM couldn't, get countered too hard. And the Aphelios, which was a smart ban, in my opinion, because FBI hadn't picked yet. So, TSM, they get the Tristana and the Alistar. And they would go on to win this one, not as easily, but Lost just played extremely well. The Seraphine was really strong. Hooney yet again held his own against Someday, even though Someday got one big alt-off in order to kind of bring them back. 100 Thieves are pretty far behind, and then he killed Hooney, and I want to say it was Spica. To set them up. TSM would control the Drake game. They would only give up one tower. This wasn't as clean as their first game, but again, it was pretty good. And overall, TSM, the second game was closer, but they beat down 100 Thieves in their games. And that's kind of been the talk of the town for 100 Thieves. They could beat all the teams that are below them. But can they beat one of the top 3 teams? They went 1-5 during the regular season. And, now they get their opportunity. And TSM get an opportunity to kind of show that, they mean business. Because last week was not clean. It was not clean. Anyways, we head into our matchup to watch. The matchup to watch is going to be Spica and Closer for me. Here, I'll explain very quickly why. I think Hooney and Someday are a wash currently. Hooney getting the slight advantage for me because Someday just had an awful split. Normally Someday would be ahead of Hooney, but Power of Evil Ryoma is not really one to watch. It's an important one, but I think that it's one that TSM should absolutely just dominate, and I'll go into that later. And then you head into the bot lane. And while I do think that it's a really important matchup, I think that these junglers, they're just, the reason I picked them is they're just so close. I mean, listen to this. 3.9 KDA for Closer, 4.3 for Spica. Spica had less deaths, but, Closer had, let me see here, 7 more kills and 11 more deaths than Spica. But he also had 22 assists more. The thing that was the biggest separation between the two, truthfully, because almost everything else is even. So actually, I'll go into the biggest separation here in a second. But almost everything else is even. Their first blood is pretty close. Their gold difference at 10 is very close. Their XP difference at 10 is close. Their CSD is pretty close. Their damage per minute is only 29 more to Closer. I guess one of the bigger things is, Spica does have the warding game down, which is just kind of the way TSM play. He's up pretty substantially in that. But the biggest difference is the kill participation. Closer was involved in 74% of his team's kills, whereas Spica was involved in 62%. So that's a big difference, and one that we will have to watch out for. But the thing is it's kind of changed up. Spica now he almost has as many assists in 8 games as he had all season, and almost as many kills, but also as many deaths. He's been a lot more involved in the way TSM are playing. I think that's because he's just been really, the spamming of Udyr. But his kill participation is up to 72% now, which I think is really, really important for him. And he's been a part of 63% of First Bloods. We saw in the last series, every game that TSM won, Spica got First Blood. And that's another reason why it's the matchup to watch. Now, I don't know that the Udyr is bannable by 100 Thieves, but I'm also hoping it's not first pickable. Is that bad to say? I don't know. I'm not convinced that they have to first pick it. I'm not convinced. Closer was solid on the Udyr, but he wasn't like over the top. During this regular season, 2-1, 2 kills, 0.67 deaths, per game, which, pretty freaking low. And then 6.3 assists. So, his kill participation was only 68% though. So that was one of his lower kill participation champions. So I don't know. I don't think you have to ban or pick it, but they might. But then when you look at what he did during the Cloud9 series, half a kill in 2 games. So, 1 kill in 2 games. He averaged 2 deaths and 3.5 assists. But his kill participation was 73%. So, obviously they got beat down. We know that. We saw that series. It was not close. But it's just going to be an interesting one to watch. They both like Hecarim. I'll go deeper into the Hecarim stats a little later, but they're both fans of the horse thing, person, dead horse guy, and they both like to be aggressive. They both are really good at playing around their teams. Spica more so lately than he was during the regular season, but this is gonna be a matchup to watch. They came in, Closer had 1 extra split over Spica. They both are big catalysts for their teams. I would argue that, at least in this current version of 100 Thieves, that Closer's probably their second best player / second carry right now. I don't think that's the same for TSM. I think he can be, but I think Spica plays, to the style that TSM need. But overall, I think this will be a really interesting matchup to watch. I'm very excited to see how they play and what they pick and what they prioritize. Because if either one of them gets their team ahead, then they're probably going to win. And I know you could say that about every jungler, but these two, they don't int very often. They play stable games, especially, Closer showed last year that there were some issues. He's ironed them out and has been relatively solid all season in the jungle. And it probably has hurt his synergy to lose Damonte, bring in Ryoma. But overall, he's still a really strong jungler. I would definitely argue that he's in the top 5 junglers in the LCS, if not, top 3, depending on how he's playing. And we know we've seen him, be a top 3 jungler in the past. So Closer's a great matchup for Spica, and it's if nothing else, it's gonna get him warmed up, which I know sounds bad, but should TSM move on, this is a good test for Spica before he has to go against TL and C9 again. That's going to be specifically Santorin and Blabber. So we're going to have to see, and that's going to be the thing I'm going to watch for them. We're going to see their pathings. We want to see, are they going to try to split the map, and leave either Huni or Someday on their own to try to get their bot lane ahead? both like to focus on the Drake, especially lately. So make sure you're watching this one because everybody's going to probably try to focus on the Ryoma, Power of Evil, Huni someday, Lost, FBI, Huhi, and Sword Art matchups. But I think that the Spica Closer one is the more important one to the series, and their ability to adapt is going to be important based on what their team needs. And I think whoever is able to do that more efficiently is who will win. Here are our TSM disadvantages. I'm going to do disadvantages first this time. The first one is their bot lane. Listen, Lost and Sword Art have been really strong, but I think that I personally feel that FBI was the best AD carry in the league this year. And I still hold true to that. I don't think that Sven is as good. Obviously, Tactical is not as good. And of the 4 AD carries left in the LCS playoffs, I would rank it FBI, Sven, Lost, and then Tactical currently. And fine, if people want to flame me for it, cool. Bring it on, bro. Go look. Go watch the games. Go watch the stats. FBI is an animal. He's an animal. He carries his team. Yes, the team plays around him. I understand that. But I'm just telling you right now, they're a good team. Because of FBI, excuse me. He is. He's their carry. He is the one that they empower to win games. And when he is able to, they win games. I mean, just plain and simple. I mean, we saw it. We saw it in their last series. He gets the Kaisa, and what does he do? He absolutely carries. He's the best Senna in the league. He's got a strong Tristana. His Aphelios was 2-0. His Ezreal was strong in the one game that we saw it. He can play Kalista. He can play Xayah. I mean, this man can play everything. He can. And he has shown that. He has proven that over the last few years. He is a very, very good player. And sure, like most people, he likes his late game carries. I understand that. But FBI, I think, is one of the top 4 players in the LCS. Maybe I'm overhyping him, but in the games I watch, when I watch the way that he's able to manipulate the lane, the way that he has been able to play with, yes, Huhi is a strong support and has really come into his own in the role. But even while Huhi was still figuring things out, FBI was playing out of his mind. I think because the rest of the team has had their issues, people kind of forget about how great FBI really is. I mean, when Lost came over for TSM, right, it was, hey, if he can be like FBI, right, because they're coming from the same region, so that's why we made that comparison, then TSM should be really happy. If he can even be, 3/4 of FBI, then TSM got a good one. That's because FBI is that standard right now. With Doublelift leaving the league and not playing well, FBI became the number 1. And I don't care what you say about Sven. I don't care. The man falls off hard. He just does. He falls off hard. And I know that he looked better than FBI during the playoffs so far. That's fine. I don't care. If I had to choose between FBI and Sven right now, I would choose FBI. And maybe that's my bias for Sven not being great on TSM. But the bot lane is absolutely a disadvantage for TSM. The other disadvantage is late game. Late game has been not great for TSM. They've thrown leads. They've struggled to close out games that they should have closed out very quickly. They make some bad decisions late game that extend the game even if they're winning. And in the series against Dignitas, 100 Thieves played it well. And according to Oracle's Elixir, then, this is... Well, it's kind of true. I guess it's not really a TSM disadvantage. They just haven't been playing it well. 100 Thieves haven't been either. Technically, the early game for 100 Thieves is still better than TSM. So if you want to call it that, that's the true disadvantage based on, again, the stats from Oracle's Elixir. But overall, TSM are still not playing the late game that they had during the regular season, and that's an issue. That is something they will have to figure out, and fast. The one area that I think is a true disadvantage for TSM is they're coming off a little bit more of a sloppy series, whereas 100 Thieves are going to be riding high. I know that Papa Smithy, I think it was in an interview with Travis, was like, hey, I'm not like, we're not celebrating yet. This was a team that we expected to beat. I did not expect them to beat. I know Dignitas fell off really hard too, but I still think Dignitas was the better team initially. Now I'm not so sure. But 100 Thieves are going to be riding high, man. They just came off of a 3-0 sweep, a very convincing 3-0 sweep against technically the better team of the two. And TSM are not. They're coming off a devastating 3-1 hard-fought loss against TL, and then a hard-fought win where they almost beat themselves against EG. There's a lot to think about with that, and TSM are going to have to show up. And 100 Thieves are already going to have that mindset. Hey, we know what we're doing. We know what we're comfortable with. We are confident in ourselves. I think that's going to be important going into it, at least for the first game. Now, here are the TSM advantages. First Blood, Spica has just been on fire getting First Bloods. TSM weirdly have one of the best First Blood rates in the entire playoffs, 63%. In 8 games. That's pretty dang good if you ask me. First Dragon and Dragon Control. They've been much better. Their First Dragon rate is currently leading at 75%. In 6 of their 8 games. Now, remember, during the regular season, that was not the case, guys. It was not the case at all. TSM's First Dragon rate during the regular season was near in the bottom 3. 39%. That's a drastic shift. And an important one that TSM will have to pay attention to going forward. Their overall Dragon control rate was 48%. Now it's closer to 51%. They ended up giving up a lot of Drakes in the TL series specifically after they would get the first one. But it is still a marked improvement from what we had discussed during the regular season. We wanted more First Bloods. We wanted more First Drakes. They're getting leads early. Now they got to translate them better. Mid lane's a huge advantage. I don't give a flying F word what anybody says. There's no chance that PoE should not just dominate this series compared to Ryoma. There's just no chance. He is better. This is the single biggest advantage TSM will have in a lane all playoffs long. You could quote me on that. And that's not a knock on Ryoma. It's not. It's just that Power of Evil is that much better. He's proven it so far in the playoffs. He has been playing out of his mind during the playoffs. He saved that series against EG multiple times. And Ryoma looked good versus Dignitas, but he looked, well, overpowered against Perks. I mean, there's a very distinct difference here, fam. In his games, I mean, look at this. His Azir 1-5-1. His Syndra 2-3-1. His kill participation in the Syndra game 37%. I would love to see the laning stats from him. It's kind of hard to find just the laning stats from him, in those 3 games against Cloud9, because they got saved a lot during what was surprisingly a very big game against Saligo. I should say series against Saligo. But Ryoma's been playing well, honestly. He's not been bad. Yeah, I think that's the thing with him, is he's not bad. He's just, it takes away their focus from FBI sometimes, and that can be an issue. So we'll have to see. That Dignitas series, it's so interesting, how you can go from getting just mollywopped in one series to just stomping in another. It's just interesting to see. It's hard to get a good full-on read of 100 Thieves, but I trust my knowledge of them beforehand when I say that, Power of Evil should also mollywop. I mean, his kill participation, Power of Evil specifically, is up to 80%. 80%, guys. I mean, that is nuts. He is second, and I know they've played more games than like everybody else, but he is second in assists. He is all over the freaking map, man. He is making plays for his team. He's just been better. I don't really know what else to say about it. And he will likely still continue to be better. Also, TSM have the synergy advantage. This again goes to the mid lane. I know Ryoma has played 6 games during the regular or during the playoffs, and let me check. During the regular season, he played 6 games. So he's played 12 games with the team now, as many as Demonte. But Demonte also played with them the whole split prior. So there is still an unfamiliarity to a certain degree, whereas TSM have now played together the entire split, all of lock-in, all of the regular season, all 8 games. Their synergy should be better, and we've seen they've had some issues with it so far in this playoffs. It's like they're going back to what they were before, but it was around this time. Now, I want to make sure that this is correct before I say this. How many games did TSM play? All right, so TSM played 7 games during the lock-in, and they were really bad in their first 4. So, yeah. So, it was right around this time that TSM started finding themselves during the regular season. They had played 11 games combined between the lock-in, where they went 3-4, and their first 4 games where they went 2-2, with 2 not great losses and 2 very ugly wins against bad teams. So, by the end, the TSM should hopefully be finding themselves by now. That's the goal, right? They're really understanding. They've played 8 games. They've had more games than anybody else. That's a huge advantage. They have learned from their mistakes. The synergy should be better during the playoffs. The nerve shouldn't be there as much. Even Lost has gotten now 8 games of experience, which is a lot more than a lot of people. right? To feel comfortable. Now's the time to turn it on. Their synergy, when their synergy is on, they don't lose very often. And I think this is going to be a really big advantage for TSM. All right, moving on. Here are my 6 keys to victory for TSM. Number 1, take advantage of the Power of Evil Ryoma matchup, but not so much that you accidentally feed him. They have done this in the past where they, it was against Dignitas. Both times. They would try to get PoE ahead, then they'd get nervous and they'd start feeling like, oh crap, he's not ahead enough, and then he would die or they'd give over a double kill. It just didn't work out very well. I want to see TSM understand the matchup, understand their positioning, understand where Closer could be, and then find PoE the matchups. I would like to see PoE get some freaking solo kills on Ryoma. That would be just like the message to them, especially in game 1. If he kills him game 1, if he's not put on something like the Seraphine, I guess he could be put on the Seraphine, but that's something that's really strong. If he comes out and he's like, yeah, what's up? Right? Like, hi, my name is Tristan, also known as Power of Evil. And I'm here to make your day absolutely miserable. If they do that, I think this is going to be a really good series for TSM. Second key. They got to put the early game of their playoff and mix it with the late game of the regular season and put it together. Because their late game of the regular season was one of the best in the LCS. Their early game right now during the playoffs is one of the best. Now, a lot of it has to do with their loss against Team Liquid in the late game. That was their biggest flaw so far in game 1. I want to see TSM, because they've been focusing, they've been talking about it. Their early game has not been good. It's very clear that they have been focusing heavily on their early game. Late game is something that you can figure out a little bit more. But I want to see them take what they've learned during the playoffs for their early game and take what they know from their regular season late game and mush it together. And that perfect marriage during this series not only will help them obviously win the series, which is the goal, but going forward too, if they can show that they can put it all together, oh man, TL and C9 are fighting for the chance to not have to get knocked out by TSM. I fully freaking believe that too. Because that's what this team can do. When they are synergized and they are on, man, oh man, it is not good for the rest of this league. Third key, play around the first Drake. Not only does TSM like it, but 100 Thieves love themselves a good first Drake. They do. It's been one of their keys to victory. And it's because they play around the bot lane. It's because Lost and Huhi can get advantages so often. I want TSM to take advantage of that. Okay? I want them to take advantage of the knowledge that 100 Thieves are going to play around their bot lane. They're going to play around the ability to take the first dragon. Have it warded. Be ready to collapse. That's where the PoE matchup is going to be important. If he's got the push in mid lane and he has first priority to the Drake, then TSM are going to be in the advantage to collapse on them. / just straight up take it. If 100 Thieves don't get a single first Drake in this series, or if they only get one, maybe, then I think TSM win. Here's what I'll say: if TSM can get at least 75% of the first 2 Drakes in their games, then I think that they win this series. Because it means that their bot lane is holding their own. It means the Power of Evil is getting advantage, and it means that Spica has been in the right place at the right times. And he's hitting his smites, which we saw last series was huge for him. He was like smite god again. Want to see that. Fourth key, Huni gets back on tanks at least sometimes. It doesn't have to be all the time, but last series kind of scares me. Actually, last 2 series. Because, truthfully, I am not totally sold on him being back as the player that he was. And I am sure that people are going to yell at me, oh, it's Huni. I am a staunch defender of Huni. I love the boy. But so far, here are the champions that he has played. Camille in 3 games. Nocturne in 2 games, which worked. I liked the adaptation because it should have been Power of Evil on Nocturne, but they switched it up. They even showed it. I'll preface this later. They showed this in their Academy games too. They like the Nocturne Tomp. So that's good. But then he's played AP Gragas, Renekton, and Rumble. During the regular season, 3 games of Gnar, 3 games of Jace, which are fine, but then 3 games of Shen, 2 games of Tanky Gragas, 2 games of Renekton, 1 game of Sion. That is 1, 3, 5, 8, 11 of his 18 games on something tanky. Purposefully tanky / bruisery. Whereas during this playoffs, 1 game on the Renekton. Now, I love that he's able to adapt. I love that he's able to play, the Camille and bring out the Nocturne, right? And the Camille with the Ignite, well, let's be careful with that. I like it into the Aatrox matchup specifically. I like it into things that are going to heal. But outside of that, the boy's got to take Flash. He's not that much better than anybody else left in the playoffs except for Fudge, to where he can abuse that kind of that kind of a lane. So, and teams are going to focus him. They're going to try to get him behind. Evil Geniuses straight up said it. I am certain that 100 Thieves are going to do the same thing. So just put him on some tanks, man. Put him on the Shen. Put him on the Gnar. Put him on Tank Gragas. Bring out something else. I don't know. Let me look and see what else he has played tanky. Bring him out on the Ornn. I know Ornn isn't getting played very much because his items aren't as strong as they were. But still, play him, Cho'Gath's in the meta. They could flex Cho'Gath. That'd be awesome. That'd be cool. Maokai's not in the meta. Galio's in the meta, but not really in the top lane. You see my point. Have him play something that can be tanky and that can have an effect on the game in terms of playmaking ability. I don't want to see these too many carries out of him, especially in this series. It could be 50-50, but hopefully no more than that. And that leads into key 5, which is Huni has to just go even with Someday. I think Someday still has that carry potential. He's still a very good player. And I think as long as Huni can play smart, can ward correctly, can make sure that Someday doesn't get the advantage, then I think that's a lane that I think that's a game that they win games when Huni plays intelligently. And that's not a knock. Huni's a very intelligent person, but there are times when he does not use his brain to play. He goes on instinct sometimes. And that can be great, but in very an important series like this, he's got to also play smart. So I want to see him go at least even with Someday, and I think TSM have a very good chance of winning the series. The last one is Very simply, don't let FBI beat you. And saying that obviously doesn't mean a lot. Like, well, what do you mean? I mean, just don't let FBI carry the series. Don't give him free advantages. Make his life hard. If TSM played with the mindset of keeping Spica in the bot lane, like doing if they did a split map where Spica played bot side and they forced they forced Closer to play topside, and Huni plays like Shen or something where he has some outplay potential, but he's also just able to sit under tower, get some CS, just kind of play the weak side. Then I think TSM can win this series. I just do. There's not much you can totally learn from the Cloud9 series against 100 Thieves. I think Cloud9 is just that much better than 100 Thieves, honestly. Which is sad, because I wouldn't have said that earlier in the year, but they made the changes in the strategy, the overall team changes that they did, and it is what it is at this point. So just don't let FBI beat you. Don't give him the champions he likes necessarily. And play around the fact that that if you abuse the bot lane, Power People will do his job in the mid lane. And if Huni can just play the weak side strongly, then I think TSM can win this, because they will focus so much and put so much pressure on FBI that there's just, unless if they're just doing brain dead dives where they're giving him free kills, there's not going to be much he can do. Lost in Sword Art have shown that they can take advantages in the lane in terms of CS and pushing their opponents under the tower. If you're doing that and they don't know if PoE is going to pop up, after going B, if they don't know where Spica is going to be too, they're going to be playing so far under tower that TSM can just win this game outright. If you shut down FBI, you win the series. Plain and simple. Because I don't believe that anybody else right now is going to be the one to carry them fully. Someday has the slight potential to do that. But I believe that Huni can at least keep him contained. My bonus key very quickly here is just no throws at Rift. Guys, please, for the love of God, no more throwing at Rift. Please, just let them play around it. Then kill them, then take it. If you kill them and they take it, so what? It's not as important as a dragon. If you kill them and you get advantages in lane, guess what? You'll get as many plates, maybe more, than they get. If everybody tries to go fight for this thing, right? If you see that they're calling FBI up and Huhi up, just give it and make Lost stay in the bot lane and let him take a couple. Especially if he's on the Tristana. He could very easily take as many plates as you would get from a Rift Herald. Big brain thinking here, right? Champions to watch for, and then we'll get into prediction, academy update, and then we'll win this bad boy. Kai'Sa's going to be super priority. Super priority. FBI has been outstanding on her all season long. He is 7-2 on her with a KDA in the 8s. Well, kills in the 8s, excuse me. His KDA is closer to 10, actually. And his Kai'Sa was so dirty during that Dignitas series. There was just not much that they could do. And that's what I'm talking about. He can carry the whole series. He did basically carry that series because they allowed him to, and they just couldn't stop him. So Kai'Sa is going to be important in this series. We all know how much Lost loves his Kai'Sa too, but I think he's shown that he can play some other stuff. So that'll be good. Renekton is also very strong. Huni is 2-1 on it, but Someday is 5-1. That's where he's had some of his best games. He's 5-1 during the regular season, with lock-in tournament combined, he is 9-2 on it. So I would expect Renekton to continue to get banned. I don't know that we'll see Renekton very much throughout the rest of this year, honestly. He is just way too strong currently. Udyr is going to be a champion to watch for too. Are TSM going to first pick it? Just straight up, are they just going to keep going, all right, teams, until you tell us differently, we're going to start with Udyr and then let you make your moves? Now, I doubt they're going to get blue side / first pick every single time in this series. I'd be shocked. Truly. Now, TSM gets side selection first, I believe, because they're the higher seed coming in. So they will probably choose blue side, meaning that you can expect similar pick patterns from them, at least in game 1. Now, they've been pulling out some random stuff during this, the last couple series, so maybe not, but I would expect an Udyr first pick, and then we'll see how it develops throughout the rest of the series, but I do anticipate that being a pinpoint for TSM. If something gets through that they lose to, right, and it's very obvious that they need to try to first pick it, then are they going to do that, or are they going to just continue to stick with the Udyr? I don't know. We're going to have to see. That Udyr pick is going to be very crucial for TSM. Champions to watch for continues with, this one's kind of like a combo one, so apologies. Senna Tahm Kench / Senna Cho'Gath. Now, we saw it during the LEC playoffs. Senna Cho'Gath is real interesting because here's the thing, like Tahm Kench, it's about obviously protecting the Senna, keeping her alive, and being able to peel for her to a certain degree. Now, Cho'Gath has that kind of peel, just not with the ability to eat her, but eat other things. More specifically, he can be a real pain. I actually love this adaptation that we saw in the LEC because I think Cho'Gath, he's got his cone of silence. He has his knockup. He has the ability to push out waves later in the game if needed, and he basically gives you another smite. It's a really smart decision. You can get early Drake control when you're fighting at Baron. Again, double smite essentially because he also can get big enough to where he can just tank everything. Sure, he doesn't have the map mobility that Tahm Kench has. Sure, he doesn't have the ability to eat Senna and keep her alive in team fights. But who cares when you have a big old Cho'Gath running at you? I think if he hasn't been spamming Cho'Gath games, I would be shocked. I don't know on what account. I don't know in what situations, but they love to play their Senna. I don't think we're going to see TSM play Cho'Gath. I would love to see them play Senna Cho'Gath. I think that'd be awesome. I wouldn't like to see it during playoffs, but maybe next split. But if 100 Thieves are not trying this combination, I would be shocked because I think it could really mess up TSM. Because if their plans to play through the bot lane, that's going to be tough with a Cho'Gath there. We saw it. It's a strong pick. I know it got exploited later on in the series, but I think it's a great adaptation. I think with more practice and everything, it could become the next Senna Tahm Kench. So watch out for that. Last two ones here. Horse related, both of them. Hecarim. Closer's really freaking good on Hecarim. So is Spica. I expect it to be banned. I expect Renekton and Hecarim to be banned every single game. I do not expect to see them. We'll see. But those are the two champions that I would expect to see banned most often. Things like the Orianna, the Azir, the Kai'Sa, potentially even the Senna. Those things would not surprise me either. I got a lot of the bans right last series, by the way, guys. I was pretty proud of that. The last one here is the Rel, actually. Huhi has been very good on Rel this season. 5-1. He's getting double-digit assists almost every game. It's just a strong pick in general. But, his kill participation, 76% during the regular season and then 83% during the playoffs. I mean, that's massive. I mean, that's a big deal, guys. That's anything above 70%, in my opinion, is pretty good. But, I mean, that's really good. TSM have shown less of an affinity to play it. They are 2-1 on it on the season, including 1-0 on the playoffs, where Sword Art also had just a massive game on her in game 1 of the EG series. But he's not as good on her, but I would still expect her to be somebody who we have to watch for again. I would love to see her played. I think she'd be really, really, really good for TSM. They could also pick Galio, but, I've harped on that enough. At least I get to say his name once during this. I swear to God, I just don't get it, guys. I just don't get it. They're 3-0 on the Galio this year. He's so freaking good for this team. Ugh. Anyways, here is now my official prediction. We are nearing the end, fam. So here we go. 3-1 TSM. I think they move on. Listen, this series should be technically tougher than EG, but I think TSM just didn't play the EG series well, so I think they should have 3-0'd them. I don't think it should have been that close. Maybe I'm disrespecting Evil Geniuses, and if so, I apologize, I guess. But, 100 Thieves are the better team, but I don't think that they're better than TSM. I don't expect this to be a Team Liquid thing where we stomped Team Liquid in 2 games, and then, we were like, holy crap, TL are really great in playoffs. No, TL just weren't playing at their best. We've seen 100 Thieves' best. We've beaten them during it. We've beaten both their mid laners. This is them beating Dignitas should have no true bearing outside of game 1 confidence into TSM. TSM are the better team on the day. They should be. They absolutely should be. I'm sure they'll drop a game. They always do. But I think overall, if they use these key to victories, if they focus on their draft, and they don't allow themselves to get suckered into whatever the heck Dignitas were thinking, then I predict a 3-1 win, and I expect that they will likely play TL again. Or, excuse me, they'll likely play C9 for the first time. I truly believe that it'll be a C9 TSM again to go into the finals. I hope I'm right. God, I hope I'm right. Whew. Anyways, Academy update real quickly. TSM Academy lost to, what are they calling themselves? I know it's Zoo, but Zeus Gaming with Alorum. They lost 2-1. Hanser and Babip fed big time in game 1. I mean, really bad in game 1. Game 2, they pulled out the Nocturne top along with the Galio mid, which I wish the main team would play, but, in terms of the Galio mid, but whatever. And they stomped. Cody's son just went off. The rest of the team played really well. They just, once the game hit 15-ish minutes or so, it was just Stomp City. TSM started winning fights like crazy. There wasn't much that Zeus could do about it. Darkwing did not look great on his Azir. And Rhino wasn't great on the Rel either, but that's kind of what happens when you're losing with Rel. So, game 3, though, would be really close up until 36 minutes, where, TSM were starting to lose, but then they lose a big fight. The Alorum Wukong came out and came to play. Man, they pulled out a really scary comp into a comp that I didn't really understand with TSM, but when you have a monkey, a bear man, and a Sivir running at you with her ultimate, and with the Udyr already running with Chem Tank, and the monkey, again, I will repeat, the monkey coming at you, who's already apparently fed, I can't believe this game wasn't over sooner. In fact, they hadn't held on as long as they did, good for them. But that was an interesting comp to see. I would love to see Wukong. I think Wukong is definitely viable. We've seen it in the LEC, and why do I get this feeling that Hooney's going to pull it out this weekend? I don't know, but yeah, it's a good pick. It's a good pick, and that team comp would be very interesting. I'd love to see TSM. I could see TSM with Wukong top, Udyr in the jungle, Orianna mid, Sivir in the bot lane, along with the Thresh. that would be a very interesting comp for TSM to run. But anyways, sadly, TSM are not knocked out. TSM Academy, I should say, are not knocked out. They are now in the losers bracket. They will play Dignitas Mirage, who lost 2-0 to C9 Academy. Maybe there's a miracle run in TSM Academy. They haven't been great really all season, but this is a chance for them to, again, just kind of save some face, beat Dignitas' third team, go on to play, I don't know, whoever else is next. I really don't even know. I think it's whoever loses one of the next series of games. So I'm assuming it would be whoever wins between TL and Barrage, and then whoever wins between No Org and one of those two teams. That's my guess for right now. So we will see, fam. We will see. But hopefully TSM can at least come out and put up at least one series win. So here's to it. I'm excited for this weekend. I'm scared with how confident I am in their win, to be honest with you, because it's more because, not because of them, it's because I always get let down by my teams when I'm positive and confident in them. It's because I normally will overlook something, or just my intense optimism for my teams, even though they always let me down. We know this as a TSM fan. Again, try being a Reds fan and a Bengals fan. Holy moly, it's tough. So I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. All right. If you like this show, please take a second to like, subscribe, and comment if you're watching on our YouTube channel. Hit the bell icon so you don't miss another episode. I want to make this the #1 TSM podcast on all podcasting platforms. If you feel so inclined, please leave a review, especially if you're listening on Apple. Appreciate you. Share this with your friends. You can find the official tweet, or you can just tweet at me at TGH Robert Haynes or at TGH Esports. Again, apologies for this coming out on Friday instead of Thursday. Please forgive me. I will, depending on what happens this weekend, obviously, I will, let you guys know on the Monday episode next week of kind of what the schedule will be going forward. But expect this. If they stay in the playoffs, there will be 2 episodes. Once they either lose or win the whole dang thing, we'll have to see. It'll really just depend. There will probably be 1 week where I don't do 2 episodes if they go to MSI. After that, it'll likely be 2. So we'll see. Lastly, head to the gamehouse.com. Read our esports stuff. Read our TSM stuff. Read it all. With that, thank you for tuning in. The show comes out normally every Monday and Thursday. This week, Friday. And it is still exclusively, though, for your TSM ear holes. I'm Robert Haynes, and this has been Talking TSM. See y'all next week.